Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we are talking about SnowRunner version 1.049. The main thing everybody is going to notice first is Chiapas, Mexico. That is the new region, and it is built around two maps rather than one huge landmass, which means the whole season is set up to keep you bouncing between different terrain types instead of settling into one route and repeating it forever. The setup here is a geothermal power plant project after tropical storms wrecked the area. So the whole season leans into that mix of recovery work, muddy roads, jungle routes, sandy stretches, and mangrove terrain. The devs also called out that this is SnowRunner's first jungle biome, which is a nice way of saying the maps are going to look and feel very different from the usual snow, rock, and industrial grime a lot of players expect. And of course, no SnowRunner season lands without new trucks, and this one brings in the Mercer R230 and the HIB Billert M816. The Mercer is positioned as an off-road cargo hauler with crawler suspension and strong maneuverability, so it sounds like the kind of truck you pull out when the route is messy and you need something that can stay planted while still carrying useful weight. The HIB Billert M116 goes the opposite direction a bit, since it is described as a highway class truck with strong speed and low fuel use, which makes it sound like a long range workhorse for when the terrain finally opens up and you are less interested in crawling and more interested in getting there without stopping for fuel every 5 minutes. There is also a new Gooseneck Semi-Trailer with parts support, and that matters more than it might sound at first. SnowRunner is always at its best when a new trailer or cargo setup changes the way you think about hauling, route planning, and what kind of truck you bring along for a job. A trailer like this gives the season its own little flavor because it is not just here is more cargo, it is here is a new way to move cargo through a map that clearly wants to punish sloppy decisions. That kind of addition tends to ripple through the whole season because suddenly the trucks, the map layout, and the mission design all start talking to each other a bit more. One of the biggest talking points in the update is the work done on the Mercedes trucks, especially the Actros 3332 and the Zetros. The Actros gets an extended frame that opens up a lot more combinations, including a large crane, flatbed, sideboard, van body, fuel and water tanks, and the SLI 64 loading crane. It also gets a high saddle, better weight distribution, a lower center of gravity, and suspension changes meant to make all of those heavier setups feel less awkward. The whole idea seems to be that the truck no longer feels boxed into one narrow role. Instead, it can actually flex into different jobs without feeling like it is one bad turn away from tipping over or dragging itself through a corner like a shopping cart with three broken wheels. The Zetros got a similar treatment, but with its own flavor. The frame was extended, the spare tire mount was integrated into the default frame, the high and low saddles were moved rearward for better trailer handling, the crane compatibility was widened, the suspension was stiffened, engine power was increased by 5% across all engines, the axle collision height was lowered, and the center of gravity was brought down. The dashboard visuals were cleaned up too. That is a lot of tuning for one truck, and it reads like the team wanted the Zetros to feel less like a quirky novelty and more like a serious tool that can actually carry the weight of a mission without constantly fighting its own geometry. The Azov 5319 also got some attention, and this is one of those quieter changes that still matters when you actually play. The mini crane positioning was adjusted, the fenders and mudguards can now be removed through visual upgrades, and trailer attachment was expanded for some add-on combinations. That kind of work does not sound huge when you read it on a list, but in practice it helps a truck feel more complete. It is the difference between a vehicle that looks like it was assembled in a hurry and a vehicle that feels like somebody actually checked whether the add-ons made sense together. Then there are the broader vehicle fixes, and this is where the patch starts feeling like a long cleanup pass on top of the new content. The Padera got corrected tire names, steering fixes, fuel consumption corrections, cargo loading fixes, and color corrections. Western Star Truck saw front axle visual fixes, snorkel-like fixes, suspension improvements, steering component fixes, and rim overlap fixes. The Jeep Renegade got a new engine option. The Derry Special 15C 177 got wheel weight and suspension adjustments. The Derry Longhorn 4520 got updated tires. The Avonhorn A15 had steering clipping fixed. The Aramatsu Forester custom skins got their third color back. and several other trucks received smaller visual or handling adjustments. In other words, this was not just a season about adding toys. It was also a season about making a huge pile of existing toys work better together. A lot of the final polish seems to have gone into the little annoying stuff that players notice immediately once they hit a garage or open a menu. Save slot progress was fixed so it matches the player profile again. Missing UI elements were restored in mod level save creation. Save labels were corrected. Progression percentages came back. Missing mini objective info was added to the codex, and there were menu, trailer store, map, and Steam Deck interface improvements. That is the kind of work that does not get a trailer clip, but it absolutely changes how the game feels to live with day to day. If you have ever lost time because a save menu looked wrong or a progress bar did not match reality, this is exactly the sort of update that quietly makes the whole game less annoying. The mod side also got some love, which is great because SnowRunner players are not shy about using mods to fill in gaps or make the game feel more personal. The notes mention fixes for subscribed mod page limits on Xbox, mod save progress mismatches, and a hard lock after logging out in the mod browser. There was also a new option to disable automatic device list refresh when hardware changes, specifically to help with stuttering. That last one stands out because it is such a practical quality of life adjustment. It is the kind of setting you only add when you know people have been feeling that hitching and asking for a way to tone it down without wrecking the rest of the game. A bunch of smaller but still useful fixes were folded in as well. Co-op reward truck unlock issues were corrected. Voron G5352 availability in hard mode and New Game Plus was fixed. The unsellable off-road scout trailer situation on the Valley of Falling Rocks was addressed. Add-on consumable counts were standardized. Repair add-on categorization was corrected. The seismic vibrator module sound no longer keeps going after the engine is off, and there were multiple graphical, visual, and localization fixes spread across the maps. On top of that, the patch notes point to performance improvements and various crash fixes, which is exactly the sort of thing you want sitting under the hood when a season adds new maps and a lot of vehicle logic on top of an already huge game. What makes this update interesting is that it does not rely on one giant gimmick. It is not just new region, new trucks, done. It is a full seasonal rollout with a very specific setting, a new visual direction, meaningful truck reworks, and a lot of cleanup that reaches into the menus, the mod browser, co-op behavior, and the core driving experience. The Season 18 preview made it pretty clear from the start that the intent was to send players into Chiapas with a geothermal plant to build, tropical storm damage to deal with, and a pair of trucks that each serve a very different purpose. And the later patch notes show the team kept tightening the bolts right up until release. That is the kind of update that changes how a lot of garages are going to feel for a while, because it gives players new jobs to do and a better tool set for doing them.